The oceans and rivers are a battlefield. Only the best prepared stand a fighting chance. It takes sophisticated navigation systems, fine-tuned reflexes, and high-precision detection methods that go way beyond the five senses. Who are the Navy SEALs, plunging the depths and storming the beaches to face down their enemies? Which warriors has evolution made worthy to become? Special Forces. To assemble our SEAL team, we begin with the most promising candidates. Oceanic icons with a fierce reputation. In the waters near South Australia, prowling commandos find power in numbers. Patrolling the oceans in pods of up to 30, their name says it all. Orca, or killer whales. Graceful and elegant, strong and stealthy, these special forces are built for battle. And it's not just their size of around 6 meters that makes these cruisers close to undefeatable. Orca's super senses include sophisticated sonar to navigate, hunt, and communicate. This pod prepares to head out on its traditional migratory maneuvers toward cold waters in Antarctica. To stay on mission, these Navy SEALs emit clicks, whistles, and pulsed calls. Clicking probably helps them navigate, avoid obstacles, and pick out prey. And now's the time to use it. Target acquired, sea lions. The orcas will ping them with high-frequency sound waves and listen for the echo. It allows these special forces to strike with high precision. Target locked. Target destroyed. Let's take a look at the orca's sonar system. The echo-locating killer whale uses its lips to produce a train of rapid clicks. The click trains pass through a fatty area in the skull called the melon, which focuses the sound waves. These waves are projected into water in front of the whale, then bounce off any object, including prey. The orca detects sounds through fat-filled cavities in its lower jaw, where they're sent to the ear and brain. The pod has made it to the Antarctic, where the water is colder, more nutrient-rich, and prey is more abundant. Each killer whale can keep track of its own echoes, even when feeding in a busy pod. Staying out of each other's way makes hunting more efficient, especially when there's a large pod and plenty of prey. Each click lasts less than 1 millisecond. Sound waves travel through water 4.5 times faster than they travel through air. At short distances, high, even ultrasonic clicks can reveal a target's size, shape, speed, direction, and distance. For hunting more distant prey, orcas rely on lower frequency clicks, sometimes as low as a human voice. The pod has completed its eating mission today. The killer whale special forces now mobilize to a new undisclosed location where they'll repeat their tactics tomorrow on another unsuspecting prey. To find our next Navy SEAL team recruits, we depart the salty ocean and travel through river deltas to freshwater streams. This is the arena for an annual life and death contest. In America's Pacific Northwest, salmon return from the depths of the ocean to spawn in the rivers. They find their way by using one of the most precise homing systems in the animal kingdom. But these super senses don't make their mission easy. Besides contending with hungry bears, these special forces fight against the current the entire way, leaping over jagged rocks and up steep waterfalls to arrive at exactly the same spot where they were born. What mysterious force drives these Navy SEALs like a compass to reach their birth site? Magnetism. They memorize the magnetic field of their birthplace like a secret password. Though they travel thousands of kilometers into the sea as adults, their magnetic key admits these fish back into headquarters when the time comes. These soldiers begin training at a young age, hatching in the same part of the river as their parents and ancestors. They stay here in fresh water from 1 to 4 years, depending on their species, eating and growing. All the while, the magnetic field of the area has been imprinted on them. As they reach adulthood, their mission becomes clear. Nature gives these special forces their marching orders to deploy into the ocean. To gear up for their mission, they must change their metabolism from freshwater to saltwater. A remarkable transformation for this massive fleet of salmon about to embark on their first real voyage. Over the next year or more, these Navy SEALs will be stationed in the open ocean, thousands of kilometers from their birthplace, until the day they receive new orders. The migration begins, back to their exact birth spot, retracing the route that led them to the ocean. A salmon's sense of direction guides the fish to find the magnetic field lines of its birthplace. This sense is coded in salmon's tissues. A portion of its head, called the olfactory rosette, contains cells with microscopic magnetite that act like individual compass needles. The cells constantly draw the salmon to its goal by following the Earth's magnetic field lines. This coating takes time and open space to develop. Salmon raised in hatcheries surrounded by metal, wires, and electric currents never develop the sense of direction and get lost at sea. But wild salmon never forget their mission to return to their spawning sites to start the next generation. In doing so, they transform back from salt to fresh water. After their exhausting journey, these spawning special forces stop feeding as soon as they reach fresh water. But their mission's far from complete. Males must fight for females. Many don't make it. By some estimates, only about 5% of the Navy SEAL team returning from the sea actually spawn successfully. And for some species, even those that complete their mission and spawn die right after mating. It's a steep price, but that's the nature of this SEAL team's mission, an heroic gesture to assure the continuation of their species. Just as salmon use the Earth's magnetic field to fulfill their destiny, a far stranger creature taps a different invisible force to fill its belly. This next Navy SEAL also patrols rivers and streams, but is literally half a world away from the Pacific Northwest. We travel to the fresh waters of Australia to find a special forces creature that's unlike any other, and yet similar to so many. Part duck, part beaver, a venomous egg-laying, water-dwelling mammal. That's a platypus. It hunts for fish, mollusks, shrimp, and larvae, but it doesn't use sight or smell to find them. In fact, when it dives, it closes its eyes, ears, and nose. His super sense is electroreception. He can feel the power of his prey and head for it. By sweeping his head side to side, receptors on his bill scan the water for the tingle of his potential lunch. Platypuses don't just sense electric fields, they can tell precisely which direction they're coming from. But besides electroreceptors, the bill is also loaded with mechanoreceptors that are sensitive to touch. So as the platypus sweeps the stream bed with his bill, he's able to identify what he's touching and whether it's alive or not. Living things generate tiny electric currents when they contract their muscles, and this Navy SEAL can detect those currents and know he's found prey. Each dive lasts only about 2 minutes, then he has to come up for air. The platypus uses the difference between arrival times of 2 signals to sense distance and location of his prey. His bill contains around 40,000 electrical receptors and 60,000 mechanical receptors. By comparing the two kinds of input, the platypus can form a mental picture of his surroundings and zero in on its prey with tremendous accuracy. Like a true Navy SEAL, he's an air-breathing, land-dwelling mammal. But he's at his most graceful and efficient underwater. He has to be, because that's where he hunts. With his eyes and nose sealed shut, he needs to cover a lot of ground with his sensitive beak to flush out his prey from the river bottom. He hunts exclusively underwater because those tiny electric currents travel more easily through water than air. Even though he's a strict carnivore, he has no teeth. While he's raking the bottom for larvae and snails, he's also picking up pebbles. When he gets a beakful, he'll surface and use the pebbles in his beak to mash up his prey before he swallows it. Once the platypus is done foraging, he'll return to headquarters, a den he's dug into the side of the riverbed. These special forces are territorial. Males have poisonous spurs on their back legs they use against predators and rivals. But platypuses mostly try to stay out of each other's way. They share their super sense for tracing electric currents with only two other mammals: the echidna, which is the planet's only other egg-laying mammal, and a species of dolphin. When his mission's completed and he's eaten his fill, this Navy SEAL will go on shore leave to rest a while. We don't have to go far to find our next Navy SEAL recruit. We just need to follow the water until it grows still. In swamps, streams, ponds, or puddles all over the world, you'll find them. Tiny creatures with a talent that any sailor would envy. Here, in an ordinary European pond, hundreds of special forces gather, performing a miracle they simply take in stride. Whatever you call them, water striders, pond skaters, or water bugs, these insects can walk on water. It has to do with weight distribution. Its middle and hind legs can be more than twice the length of its body. It uses the middle pair for propulsion and the hind pair for steering. Fine water-resistant hairs on their feet trap air and help these Navy SEALs skate on the surface. Evolution has provided these mariners with benefits that military robot designers hope to mimic. These special forces can even weather high seas. These minuscule naval captains remain virtually unsinkable. Their legs, more buoyant than duck feathers, can support 15 times the bug's weight without sinking. But this is no leisure cruise. These bugs are on a mission, and they need to know how to navigate, reading the water to find food and avoid danger. With their short front legs, they capture insects that fall onto the water's surface. In crowded conditions, they might even dine on each other. Determining friend from foe depends on interpreting vibrations on the water's surface. A struggling insect kicks up a lot of chaotic ripples, telling the water strider that lunch is ready. They prefer live prey, though any port in a storm. These Navy SEALs enjoy a liquid diet. They puncture their prey, inject enzymes that liquefy the organs, and then suck out the juice. They get most of the fluid they need from the bugs they eat. Struggling prey is one thing, but water striders can send out good vibrations of their own. Especially when it's time to find a mate. Males know how to communicate their intentions. By slowly sweeping their forelegs through the water, these special forces create a series of regular waves that travel about a meter. It's like a semaphore signal to catch a female's attention. The males make high-frequency ripple signals by shaking their forelegs up and down. The vibrations not only attract females, they alert other males in the area. So the ripples can be used to define a bug's territory, find food, or to warn other males away from a female who's already spoken for. This pair has found each other and are completing their mission to mate. The couple will stay bunkmates for the whole mating season. That's how the male makes sure that his genes and not a rival's get passed on. It must be effective. These elite water-walking micro-mariners thrive on freshwater surfaces all over the world. From a calm surface of lakes and streams, we travel to the margins of the rolling sea to assess the powers of a Navy SEAL that's half aquatic, half terrestrial. In the waters and sandy beaches of Indonesia, a well-armored Marine puts his superb senses into action. The hermit crab. Despite the name, hermit crabs are more closely related to lobsters than crabs. Lacking a hard shell of their own, these masters of disguise make camp in the abandoned shells of others. Most hermit crab species spend their entire lives underwater, but a few special forces conquered the land and evolved equipment to do it. Hermit crabs experience the world mainly through their antennae. It's a tactic they share with all other crustaceans. The coconut crab, a subspecies of hermit crab that can stretch 1 meter from leg to leg, uses its antennae to sniff out food from up to 50 meters away. While some of its antennae work like feelers, the first pair of antennae between the eyes are coated with hairs sensitive to scent chemicals. They serve these Navy SEALs as super sniffers underwater and on the beach, but they work in different ways on land and at sea. Though these special forces possess other senses, they depend mainly on their fine-tuned antennae. And this information is what keeps him alert to danger so that he can hide in time. But how do these super senses work? Underwater, hermit crabs sniff by flicking their antennae back and forth, trapping fluid in the spaces between hairs. By adjusting the speed and direction of their antennae, they can either collect a new water sample or hang on to an old one, buying enough time to thoroughly analyze it. A large part of the hermit crab's brain is dedicated to processing the scents and tastes that their antennae pick up. This one has detected dead fish, a welcome change from his usual filter feeding on the sand. But sniffing out food isn't as important as locking onto the scent of a dead hermit crab. In fact, their ability to detect a deceased comrade is 10 times stronger than their skill at smelling a potential meal. That's because a dead hermit crab means a new shell is available, and this hermit crab is hoping to occupy it. These special forces have to find larger shells as they grow. But the competition is fierce, so they have to fight for it. The biggest fighter wins the prize, but his vacated shell won't go to waste as another crab moves in. On the beach, crabs sniff in a different way. They flick their antennae too, but unlike marine crabs, these Navy SEALs pick up scents from the air flowing around the antennae, rather than between the hairs. And the more humid the air, the more keen their sense of smell. They also have a sharp fragrance memory. To reduce conflicts with other hermit crabs, these special forces remember each other's odor. Once two hermits have clashed, they avoid each other. After this Navy SEAL learned who outranked him, he'll set out to find a new beachhead to claim as his own. For our next Navy SEAL candidates, we leave the beaches of Indonesia and travel across the Indian Ocean. We emerge on an island off Africa's east coast, a peculiar place large enough to be the Earth's unofficial 8th continent. On the shores of Madagascar, though also found in Southeast Asia and Australia, lives a small fish with a very big difference, the proverbial fish out of water. Among the mangrove trees hops the Mudskipper. These amphibious fish spend up to 90% of their day on salty mudflats, special forces looking to eat small bugs and crustaceans. While their ability to breathe in and out of water is remarkable enough, their super sense eyesight adds to their Navy SEAL skills. Their eyes have to adjust to see in two worlds because a mudskipper's eyes are on turrets. He can raise and lower them like a periscope. Since this Navy SEAL needs to avoid enemies in the surf and on the sand, he'd better keep a sharp eye out. Though the mudskipper isn't very large, his bulbous eyes have more light and color receptors than many predatory fish. But there's a compromise. Because he spends most of his time out of the water, his eyes are flatter than normal fish eyes, so he can see better in the air than underwater. This one's patrolling the coast of Southeast Asia. And though he doesn't have eyelids or tear ducts, he's the only fish that can blink, dipping his eyes into a pouch to keep them moist. As these special forces sweep the sand for their meals, they seem totally in control. Ferociously pursuing and terrorizing small prey. But these 12-centimeter beach bullies waste no time retreating from the beachhead when they spy a bigger foe. Their rotating eyes work independently. Facing front, their vision overlaps, creating a field of stereo vision about 15 degrees wide. Each eye can also look behind, creating two 180-degree fields on each side and also above and below. They can move their eyes up and down and side to side without ever having to rotate their head. That's a great advantage over other fish eyes because a Navy SEAL never knows where its enemies are coming from. The ever-vigilant skipper knows when it's time to hit the bunker. When the coast is clear, another highly visible adventure begins. This male is looking for a mate, and that means he has to be seen. Leaping advertises his virility, but he faces competition. Though the rivals manage the occasional body slam, the goal is to intimidate, not to wound. Again, it's all about visuals. Whoever looks more frightening wins the mate. The loser has to look for love in a different territory. For now, this Navy SEAL's retreating to the water. Leaving the sweltering heat of the beaches of Southeast Asia, we search for our next Navy SEAL recruits in the mercilessly cold waters up north. These Special Forces raiders live along the coast of the Pacific Ocean in North America and also in Asia and Europe. This particular family thrives near the coast of Alaska's Prince William Sound. Sea otters. While mudskippers are fish that live mainly on land, sea otters are mammals that live mostly in the water. Aside from being resistant to cold, sea otters are very sensitive, especially when it comes to their super sense of touch. Since these special forces hunt in the water and have to hold their breath, they can't rely on their sense of smell. So they probe for their prey using the whiskers around their mouths. They also have dexterous forelimbs for handling their food. When he's not floating on the water's surface, this Navy SEAL is diving to the bottom to look for sea urchins and shellfish. But his eyes are almost useless down there. The dark and murky water can make hunting a shot in the dark. So he must find his food by feeling for it. His sense of touch is so sensitive, he can tell a mussel from a clam. And he can hold his breath for up to 5 minutes. Flaps automatically seal his ears and nostrils from the water, leaving only the whiskers to guide the way. The sea otter is the only marine animal able to move rocks around, picking them up or knocking them away with his forelimbs. The sea otter can identify prey simply by brushing it with its sensitive whiskers or vibrissae. Its face sports an array of about 120 of them. By comparison, a cat has only about 24. The whiskers are arranged in an orderly pattern, and each is attached to elastic tissues and nerves, transporting the tactile information to the brain. Thanks to his high-tech whiskers, catching prey might be the easy part. The real work comes in trying to open their armored meal. That requires another SEAL training tactic, tool use. The otter uses rocks to pry its prey from the ocean bottom and to crack open its shell. Usually by placing the prey on its chest and pounding it with a rock. The sea otter then enjoys its meal, lounging on its back in the sea. They even sleep in that position. Not many other animals are so handy. These special forces are the only marine mammals that grab their food with their forelimbs rather than their teeth. Sea otters are social animals, and by growing up in groups and learning together, they form a truly solid SEAL team. Tool use, tactile sensitivity, and their semi-amphibious lifestyle make sea otters the perfect candidates for nature's Navy SEALs. Our next elite SEAL team candidate is an expert at sending coded messages. He patrols the freshwater swamps of North America and the future of his line depends on his success. The Everglades National Park in Florida is home to a Special Forces warrior with super senses, practically perfected by evolution. Resting on the banks or cruising the waters are the alligators. Almost unchanged for millions of years, these social reptiles have mastered strategies for survival and reproduction. When it comes to courtship, these Navy SEALs strike all the right notes. When it's time to mate, males telegraph the message by producing infrasonic vibrations. Female gators are tuned into their frequency, ready to respond. Like any good relationship, communication is the key. These special forces camp out in close proximity to one another, but they like to keep to themselves. To establish their boundaries, gators of both sexes bellow or roar. But mating time calls for a different technique, a secret signal designed to travel far and which is almost undetectable to us. Besides loud bellowing, in the water, male alligators vibrate their flanks, sending the water and subsonic sound waves into motion. The signal travels far and wide to anyone with the super senses to detect it. These advertisement calls are an invitation to far-ranging females to come and mate. And even if we can't hear them, we can see them. In courtship season, one Navy SEAL's bellow can trigger others. A male bellows, a female bellows in response. Others join in, spreading the message for hundreds of meters. Female bellowing isn't as loud as males, and they don't produce infrasound. The Special Forces suitors usually compete peaceably with one another, but not always. The female picks up the signal and heads toward its source, responding with calls of her own. The male's bellow can be as loud as the deck of an aircraft carrier, but at the bottom range of human hearing, so we can't hear it. The vibration can spread up to 1.5 kilometers. Females feel it rather than hear it. They pick it up with the part of the ear that's more closely associated with balance rather than sound. These Navy SEALs court by sight and sound. What female alligator wouldn't be impressed by a guy who can make the water dance? Without making a sound, at least a sound that we can hear, the male has talked the female into mating with him. She may have walked and swam a long way to meet him, but she won't be his only partner. All this effort in finding one another seems rather complex compared to the act of mating itself, which lasts only about 30 seconds. When they're done, the female will retreat to her nest, lay her eggs, and take care of her young. Such is the power of this Navy SEAL's top secret signal that passes life from one generation to the next. Life began in the water, and for some special forces, it remains the ultimate evolutionary proving ground, pushing them beyond the normal limits. Highly adapted to their habitat, they become the Navy SEALs. Orcas use infrasonic signals to dominate their domain. Their click trains bounce off and lock onto potential prey. Salmon memorize the Earth's magnetic field to orient themselves thousands of miles from their home base. Platypuses tap into the tiny electric field of their prey in the murky waters. The current generated by a muscle twitch is all it takes. Whereas water striders read the vibrations of the water they walk upon. At a distance, their legs can distinguish between friend, foe, and food. Hermit crabs sample the air with their finely tuned antennae, steering clear of rival crabs and sniffing out molecules of potential meals in the humid seaside air. Mudskippers, always on alert for enemies on land, sea, and air, keep an eye out in all directions, ready to dash to safety. Sea otters hunt blind. When they dive for food, their super-sensitive vibrissae get the job done. Alligators' love songs are inaudible to humans, but their infrasonic signals are seductive nonetheless. They have the power to shake the water and win hearts. All these adaptations, super specialized, highly effective, qualify these animals for the ranks of the Navy SEALs. Within this natural world lie countless hidden worlds. Worlds experienced through sensations, vibrations, and colors that not everyone can detect. Every animal perceives the world in its own way, and survival depends on reading the signs or relaying the signals. In every environment, nature has provided specialists, and among them are the Special Forces. We begin our discovery of the amazing Special Forces by inspecting a sleek, limber, and well-equipped fleet. They patrol the waters off the Australian coast. Bottlenose dolphins. These 4-meter-long submariners perform their maneuvers in relatively shallow waters, usually in pods of 5 to 20. Sometimes these mini fleets embark on hunting operations in river estuaries, but in these murky waters, it's difficult to see and get oriented. which is why these specialists don't trust their eyes, but strongly rely on their hearing. Dolphins are known for their sophisticated communication techniques. When hunting, they use their vocal and hearing skills to perform echolocation. A dolphin does not have vocal cords. This communication specialist produces sounds by moving air through its nasal passages. Dolphins don't have a language, but they do have a wide vocabulary of whistles, trills, clicks, squeaks, and creaks. Each sound, pattern, and frequency carries a different meaning. Bottlenose dolphins can hear sounds almost as deep as we can, but in a high range they can hear much better than cats or dogs, well beyond our own ability. In most social communication, they use their lower range, but it's still much higher than we can hear. Each dolphin identifies itself with a signature whistle that lasts less than 1 second. That whistle is within our hearing range. A mother dolphin can whistle to her calf almost continuously for several days after giving birth. This acoustic imprinting helps the cadet learn to identify his commanding officer, his mother. In about a month, he'll develop his own ID call. Having learned the pod's call signs, the cadet joins some of his crew members on a hunting expedition in the deeper sea. Communication helps the team coordinate their efforts to round up the maximum amount of fish with the least amount of effort. But first, they must locate the best fishing spots. That's where echolocation comes in. The dolphins emit an ultrasonic ping underwater, which travels about 4.5 times faster than it travels through air. Like sonar, the sound bounces off the prey and echoes back to the dolphin. Echolocation can pinpoint a fish the size of a pack of gum from about 200 meters away. Like most echolocation specialists, dolphins pick up the sound in their lower jawbone. In Florida, bottlenose dolphins may increase their hunting success by venturing into river estuaries where the salt and freshwater mix. Like sailors in a fog, they couldn't navigate the murky water here without echolocation. Communication and teamwork win the day. Three or more dolphins' coordinated strikes herd the slippery fish onto the shore where they can't escape. Once they've captured the enemy in the mud, the special forces storm the beach, eat the fish, and get back to the water. Such is the power of the bottlenose dolphin, a communication specialist that uses its skills to rally the troops for its well-coordinated search and destroy missions. From the formidable team players in the seas, we go to another social and highly coordinated specialist. But this one has mastered the sky. The European countryside is one of the summer home bases and training grounds for a daring squadron of tiny pilots. Patrolling the skies and returning to the airfield is a barn swallow. These avian airmen are specialists when it comes to establishing beachheads and new bases. Whole squadrons of these small pilots crisscross thousands of kilometers twice a year in their migration. To navigate on their 11,000-kilometer mission across the equator and back again, they rely on the Earth's magnetic field. They make camp in Europe only during warm months when the insects are plentiful. As their name suggests, barn swallows usually construct their hangars in human buildings. Old barns are an ideal place to hatch the new recruits. Their mother provides for them in the nest for about 20 days, and even when they fledge, they keep returning to this mess hall for about a week. Barn swallows return to the same nest area, sometimes for generations. Like a homing beacon, the magnetic fingerprint of their base is imprinted on them, so they know precisely where to go. When autumn comes, the squadron decamps. These European swallows usually migrate to southern Africa. These winter grounds are home to about 2 million of them. Swallows feed here and wait out the winter. They need to regain their strength for the treacherous return to Europe. But they won't get too comfortable. They're a mobile unit, and once the snow melts in their European air station, they'll need to return and breed. To navigate, barn swallows can observe the Earth's magnetic field lines. They probably see the lines as dark spots. When they head north in spring, they see the magnetic lines above the horizon. In autumn, when migrating toward the equator, the lines appear below the horizon. Their compass information changes even when moving east or westward because they're able to perceive the angle or the inclination of the magnetic field. These swallows are called back home from their winter base in Nigeria. They may have to travel around 5,000 kilometers to get there. And between them and home lies one of the planet's biggest death traps, one that cannot be conquered. The 9 million square kilometers Sahara Desert. Too wide to go around, with temperatures reaching a blistering 59 degrees Celsius. These swallows have traveled 2,500 kilometers since they started their journey. They need to refuel to continue. Thanks to their built-in compass, they know just where to go. Umama Oasis. The swallows are safe. Now, the squadron will be able to continue using their specialist navigation system to safely return to their summer base. Leaving the migrating squadron of sparrows to their aerial maneuvers, we cross an ocean to inspect some heavy forces on land, specialists in clandestine communication. These special forces send messages with the highest level of encryption. One of Africa's most recognizable ambassadors lives only in certain parts of the continent, and more rarely in parts of Asia. Built like tanks, but conducting their peaceful mission on the grasses here, are the rhinos. These white rhinos form a unit of up to a dozen soldiers. Like all command posts, communication is the key to keeping order. Letting the troops know who is the captain. Training the new cadets. And moving up the chain of command. All 6 species of rhino encode their messages to utilize their great sense of smell and hearing. These specialists are among the few land animals that can transmit their classified reports in frequencies way below the threshold of human hearing, using infrasound. The benefit of infrasound is that the lower frequency sounds travel farther than higher frequency sounds. The infrasound waves aren't as easily disrupted by hills and trees. And that means this male's getting the message he's been waiting for. The usually solitary adults fraternize only when they're on a diplomatic mission to mate. Females leave behind their usual scent to mark their presence. When it's time to reproduce, they use infrasound signaling to advertise their readiness. Rhinos have poor vision, so they show no outward visual signs that they're in heat. Once these special forces meet, the female will follow her chosen male, warning off other females by leaving scent marks. Then, the pair follow the usual protocol to conduct their liaison. The African rhinos have fulfilled their mission. But the true masters of infrasonic communication are their special forces counterparts stationed in the dense jungles of Asia. There are fewer than 100 Sumatran rhinos, Dissomocerus sumatrensis, left in the world. These specialists are the most solitary rhinos, very territorial with vast ranges, about 50 square kilometers for males and 15 for females. So their infrasonic signal has to travel enormous distances through many obstacles. Sumatran rhinos can produce 90 decibel whistles, about as loud as a nearby train whistle. But because the sound is in the infrasonic range, we can't hear it. Even so, the whistle, followed by a sharp burst of air, can carry for almost 20 kilometers across the forest to reach the ears of other rhinos. These two have found each other. The specialized infrasonic signaling has worked. Now they debrief each other, agree to the terms of their treaty, and complete their crucial mission. About a year later, the strategic alliance of these soldiers pays off. In the night, the mother gives birth to her calf. It's a momentous occasion. Sumatran rhinos have a single baby only every 2 to 5 years. Despite their great sensory equipment for romantic reconnaissance, Sumatran rhinos are dying out for lack of reproduction. The new recruit will stay in boot camp with her mother for more than 2 years, and it will take even longer before she joins the Special Forces, using her infrasonic abilities to become a parent herself. Sumatran rhinos are peaceful herbivores, specialists in long-range communication to locate each other over great distances. Our next specialists are more interested in finding prey, and their method is both very sophisticated and extremely ancient. In the waters near the African coast, along the sandy bottom, lives a Special Forces tracker skilled in locking onto his target. Hiding and waiting like a sniper, the Stingray. With eyes on the top of her head and no way to see below, how does she hunt? Her eyes aren't important when she's equipped with specialized sensors called ampullae of Lorenzini that can detect the minute electrical charges of her potential prey. She shares this skill with her relative, the shark. They've developed this specialized sensory apparatus about 15 million years ago. And this one is about to begin her feeding mission. These small squids would make a perfect meal. But the ray is into something else, something easier to catch. Their eggs. Like a minesweeper, all she has to do is brush the surface, and there they are. She zeroes in on the tiny electrical impulses they, like all living things, emit. The underside of a stingray's body is pocked with hundreds of thousands of tiny pores, called ampullae of Lorenzini. They connect to a long jelly-filled canal which contains a bundle of sensory cells. The ampullae allow rays to detect weak electrical fields emitted by muscle movements of their prey, even if they're hidden. The ampullae can also detect motion. The ray doesn't care if it stirs up the sand because it doesn't use its eyes to hunt. In the waters off Australia, a stingray has perfectly timed his raid on a busy outpost. Spider crabs are usually solitary, except when it's time to molt their shells. Vulnerable, they gather in huge numbers, which makes them an easy target. Though the ray has superior weaponry, he needs a strategy. He looks for the freshest molts with the softest armor. For this specialist, guided by electricity, that's no problem. The new soft shell releases slightly stronger electrical impulses. For the crab, there's nowhere to hide. The ray sweeps the bottom until its receptors lock on for his search and destroy mission. Electroreception is this soldier's secret weapon. Electroreception works great for marines like the stingray, where the water is conductive. But special forces living in one of the driest climates on Earth need to develop different survival tactics. The edge of Africa's Namib Desert is a home to a well-trained regiment of trackers that works best when working together. Duties are divided, and a sentry's always on guard to protect the compound of meerkats. These small members of the mongoose family bet on numbers. An average clan can have about 20. While a few specialists keep a sharp eye out for predators, the rest busy themselves with foraging duties. Like an air raid siren, a sharp shrill can warn all personnel to take cover and disappear within their complex burrow system. Meerkats are specialists with sharp vision and superb sense of smell. Those are what it takes to survive when you're stationed in a desert or semi-desert environment. Meerkats spend much of their time digging with their noses near the ground. They can smell prey hiding below the surface. Their sensitive olfactory equipment can even discern between favorites, familiar foods, and ones they're not familiar with. Victory! This soldier has flushed out a scorpion. The meerkat is immune to its venom, so he can eat it without a second thought. A meerkat clan's territory could span 10 square kilometers, and the troops guard it fiercely against enemy forces, including other meerkats. An invasion team approaches. The meerkats rely on their sense of smell to tell allies from enemies. Once they identify their adversaries, the clan works together to drive them out. Friends and foe alike may be silent or well camouflaged, but they can never hide their scent, which is why the meerkat special forces rely on their noses. This cobra might think she's secretly infiltrated the meerkat's defenses. Not on his watch. He sounds the alert. The military patrol instantly surrounds the invader, ruining the element of surprise she depends on. She aborts her mission. But one of the colony's biggest threats comes without a scent and without a sound. So these specialists rely on their sharp vision as an early warning defense against threats from land or air. The dark patches around their eyes serve as natural sunglasses, essential in this sunlit environment. A meerkat sentry can spot danger or prey from as far as 1 kilometer. Like actual cats, meerkats have forward-facing eyes for depth perception. Horizontal pupils also improve their depth perception and their horizontal field of view. Their large eyes and eye sockets take up more than 20% of their skull length. This specialized vision gives the foraging troops enough time to retreat in case of attack. The special forces are put to the test, retreating to their burrow with no casualties. Staying small and limber and working as a highly trained unit enables these specialists to prevail over their predators. Which is why the meerkats thrive as one of the Namib Desert's special forces. On the other side of the world, in colder terrain, another unit of mighty specialists also demands a high level of coordination and leadership to succeed. In the woods of North America live iconic predators, able to take down targets way bigger than themselves. Gray wolves. These survival specialists live in packs. An alpha pair of wolves leads each pack. They demand strict social order, which they enforce through constant communication. The pack maintains discipline by barking, growling, and howling, which reduce the need for open conflict. Vocal communication also works at a distance. So wolves are specialists at making sounds and listening. They call any time of day, but they're most active and vocal in the evening. When the wind is still, a wolf can heed a call through the forest from 10 kilometers away or 16 kilometers in the open. As impressive as that might be, A pack of wolves may range over a territory up to 2,500 square kilometers, depending on the availability of their prey. And what hearing and body language can't do, scent can. Wolves mark their territory with scat and urine to make a lasting impression on the area for anyone coming later. The scent lingers long after the howling fades. They can discern allies from enemies by the scent of the urine. This battle diary lets them know if the other wolves passed through this territory, if they were male or female, and how recently they visited. A wolf marks its territory with his scent print around every 100 meters. Specialized glands around the anus and near the base of its tail produce his signature scent. A wolf's specialized sense of smell is 100,000 times more sensitive than ours. They exhale through side slits in their nostrils, so the incoming scent doesn't get diluted. Their olfactory bulb, which recognizes smells, is 3 times larger than in humans. When the mission calls for finding food, scent is crucial. The wolves sniff out a bison herd on the edge of their forest. They can detect their prey from almost 3 kilometers. Now they must target a single calf. The chase begins. Working together, the wolves herd the buffaloes. They come from all sides, trying to separate the little one from the rest. With their specialized sense of smell, some wolves don't need to see their prey. They can track it by scent until the very end. Such is the power of a wolf pack's incredible sensory talents and their tactical methods of communication that brings them success on the battlefield. Wolves succeed because of their pack mentality. The group is always stronger than the individual. Nowhere is this more true than with our next Special Forces specialists. Their dedication to a common goal is among the strongest in the animal kingdom. From the moment they're born, these soldiers are enlisted, assigned a rank, and begin their service. The world's airspace is the domain of all kinds of insects. This particular Air Force patrols all but the coldest regions of the globe. Carefully attending to the local flora. Honeybees. Honeybees embody the idea of hive intelligence. The hive operates like a single living organism. To make it work, everyone's a specialist with a specific job to perform. A hive could have 30,000 or more crew members. Sterile female workers collect pollen to feed the colony. Male drones stay near the hive to protect it and build a new honeycomb. It's a tightly run operation, as disciplined as any military unit. But what goes on behind the scenes to keep the hive humming? These tiny pilots rely on 2 systems to perform their duties: pheromones that they pick up with their antennae and polarized light from the sun. The pheromones are like orders that come directly from the general, in this case, the hive's only queen. She alone lays the eggs, up to 2,000 a day. The queen's most important pheromones reassure the hive that she's okay, so they won't produce another queen. Other pheromones prevent the workers from laying eggs of their own. Her pheromones keep her in charge. They also keep the hive running smoothly, so everyone knows his or her specialized role in the feeding and protection of the colony. Among these specialists live super specialists. Heater bees flap their wing muscles to raise the temperature in the hive. Not only do they keep the hive warm, but by controlling the temperature of the eggs, they can determine which of the workers will become foragers and which will become housekeepers. They keep crucial hive operations in balance. Every bee performs its duty perfectly because it's the job he or she was born to do. Every day, foraging worker bees fly reconnaissance missions to collect nectar and pollen. They may travel as far as 15 kilometers from the hive. Working on the front lines, they're lucky to live a month. On average, these workers will visit up to 500 million flowers in a season. They navigate by reading polarized light on sunny days and on cloudy days, ultraviolet light. But what is even more amazing is the way they convey their military intelligence to the other troops when they return to the hive. They reveal the coordinates of the pollen source by doing a waggle dance. The waggle tells the squadron the distance to the food source. The longer the waggle, the further the source. Then there's angle. It shows where the target is in relation to the sun, even when the sun moves as the day progresses. The bee's internal clock tells her the correct position. By this amazingly accurate technique, she can guide the others to food sources up to 6 kilometers away, ensuring the hive won't go hungry. Moving on to Africa, where the most ferocious of bees live, a hive is under siege. Elephants will tear down trees to eat the tender leaves, but this tree has a beehive. The entire colony could be wiped out. The soldiers go to DEFCON 2. Pheromones spread the alert. Everyone reports to battle stations. Every time they sting the elephant, they leave traces of pheromone that attracts more bees to the spot. That's a lot of painful stings, especially to the soft skin. The bee's swift response repels the enemy. A great victory for the small bees, using the power of scent to protect their nation. Bees use their specialist powers to build and expand, but they keep to themselves. Others use the same powers to stage huge invasions, cutting a swath of destruction in their path. The arrival of seasonal rains brings a shot of life across the landscape after a prolonged drought. This new green world can also awaken a ravenous sleeper cell. In African, American, and Australian arid zones, when conditions are right, a demolition team starts to gather, seemingly out of nowhere. They begin their long, hungry march across the grassland. They look strangely familiar. You've seen them or their relatives around, but hopefully never like this. Invading in force, here come the locusts. Swarms of desert locusts can span several hundred square kilometers. At about 50 million locusts per square kilometer, we're talking an invasion of tens of thousands of millions of voracious infantry. They navigate to the next battlefield by detecting polarized light. As they grow into adults, they molt, and each time they do, their sensory equipment and appetites improve. At this early stage in their campaign, they follow the smell of fresh, sprouting grass. It's been said that an army marches on its stomach. That's true for locusts. 5 weeks of constant eating mobilizes the infantry. Each soldier munches the equivalent of its body weight every day. Once they reach adulthood, these special forces improve their battle readiness. The locust infantry goes airborne. As winged adults, they aren't stopped by obstacles, so they can increase their destructive power. These adults release pheromones, signaling others in their swarm to join them in their search for new, fresh feeding grounds. Though desert locusts mostly use wind to travel great distances, they also read polarized sunlight. Each compound eye consists of around 9,000 optical sensors called ommatidia. About 400 of them are calibrated to detect polarized light. Besides orienting the swarm, the light helps them avoid large bodies of water so they don't risk drowning. By following the wind, they always head to areas with low pressure, which means rain and fresh vegetation. They'll keep consuming crops until all that's left is the barren desert. At the end of the season, they'll die, but a new generation will arise from eggs they've laid. The conditions in which they hatch will determine whether they live solitary lives or will once again assemble an army. It seems that 5 senses would be enough, but nature proves over and over again that they're not. And even among some specialists, the basic 5 get stretched to the limit. Take barn swallows. They migrate thousands of miles by relying not on sight or sound or smell, but by sensing the planet's magnetic field above and below the equator. Bottlenose dolphins rely on hearing, but in a high-frequency, highly unconventional way. They use echolocation like sonar to find their meals and other sounds to find pod mates. Rhinos also use sound, but where dolphins hear high notes, rhinos are specialists at transmitting low infrasound, like a secret message to a friendly agent. While rhinos are transmitters, stingrays are receivers. They use a sixth sense to pick up minute electrical signals from their prey. When the water's a conductor, resistance is futile. A wolf hunts more traditionally, relying on his remarkable sense of smell. To a wolf, the wilderness must be a kaleidoscope of ever-changing scents for him and his pack to explore and exploit. Like wolves, meerkats use sight and scent, but mainly to avoid predators. And similar to wolves, they rely on teamwork. Bees live in a different world of chemical signals, in the pheromones that dictate their behavior. And to navigate, these special forces trust their eyes, not with anything we can see, but by reading polarized light. It's a specialized skill bees share with locusts. When these field workers unite and revolt, cutting a swath across the land, polarized light steers them clear of wide water. These are the specialists, the special forces who have mastered their particular place in the world. In this dangerous world, what does it take to win? Across the savannah, deep in the forest, or under the sea, every victor has something in common: the right tools for the job. Whether it's vision, speed, sense of touch, or smell, exceptional equipment ups the odds. In the battle for survival, a soldier is only as good as her gear. And when it comes to state-of-the-art, these are the Special Forces. Tropical jungles cover only 6% of the world's surface, but are home to millions of animal species. And for each one, every day is a battle for survival. Off the southeast coast of Africa, on the island of Madagascar, dwells an animal uniquely geared up for action. A stealthy, solitary soldier, the chameleon. Its special gear boasts one especially eye-catching feature: its eyes. Through them, the chameleon can view an almost 360-degree panorama, keeping him safe and aiding the hunt. These highly evolved gun sights can zero in on targets 1 kilometer away. They can rotate independently and focus precisely on a target 4 times faster than we can. This precision gear is positioned on opposite sides of his head, providing a view to the sides, behind, and toward the front. To protect his sensitive surveillance gear, the chameleon has evolved a thick, muscular eyelid. It surrounds each eye turret, leaving only the pupil exposed and sharpening its acuity. Because the eyes aren't blocked by deep eye sockets, each eye is free to rotate like a periscope, independently of each other. But when the chameleon spots potential prey, this Special Forces spy focuses his gear in the same direction, gaining stereoscopic vision for precise distance and depth perception. While searching for prey, monocular vision is good enough. Each eye is controlled by separate nerve bundles to provide a wide sweep of his surroundings. Once the surveillance expert spots his prey, the images synchronize or couple. The eye that finds the target sends stronger impulses to the brain than the eye still searching. Then both lock on, creating a stereoscopic image so he can accurately deploy his other special gear, his tongue. The anatomy of the chameleon's eye gives this lizard telephoto vision. It also has the highest density of optical cells of any animal tested, so it sees in high definition. His precision optical gear is even more enhanced by the protective turret. Behind those sharp eyes is a remarkable brain to process all that visual data. By shifting his focus, this Special Forces sharpshooter can accurately estimate distance, even with a single eye. When both eyes lock on a target, it's game over, as the chameleon deploys its ballistic tongue at almost 100 kilometers per hour. After a successful mission, this Special Forces soldier takes a rest but must remain vigilant. Danger can come literally from anywhere. Once his gear reveals an attacker, he knows now's the time to stay hidden. The only blind spot, measuring 18 degrees, resides directly above his head. While it's said that chameleons change color to mimic their environment, that's not really true. Color-changing cells are a vital part of the chameleon's gear, but not in the way you might think. They sometimes use color to stand out like battle flags, as this female Labord's chameleon is doing. A male has tracked her, eager to accomplish his ultimate mission in life, mating. Though in his excitement he's disobeyed his orders, her colors clearly signal that she's really not in the mood. So they engage, though not in the way he intended. Losing this battle should teach him how to tell allies from enemies. Respect the uniform. He's lost the battle, but not the war. He'll devote his optical gear to finding a more suitably colored, receptive female. Heading onto the African mainland, we find a completely different Special Forces environment. The lush and tangled jungles retreat, leaving the open battlefield of the savannah. Here, on most of Africa's grasslands, lives a surveillance and ambush specialist, the most effective feline hunter. The serval. Weighing only about 16 kilos, one might think the serval is not so formidable. But thanks to his special gear, his kill ratio is as high as 62%, way more lethal than any big, scarier cat could ever dream of. He stays hidden in the tall grass, safe from competition, while searching for rodents and small animals. And this warrior can get just as ferocious as his bigger cousins. Servals owe their ninja-like success to their precise hearing, channeled through the largest ears compared to body size of any cat. This rotating radar gear amplifies sounds. The bigger the ears, the more sound they can channel into the middle and inner ear, increasing the serval's ability to pinpoint prey, which is mostly mice. All cats have 32 muscles within each ear, which allows the cat to rotate each ear independently, 180 degrees, to focus on the source of the sound. The serval's huge ears are tuned to the ultrasonic frequencies of their squeaking prey, and possibly even to their movement underground. Servals can effectively intercept this communication from as far as 15 meters. Once his gear picks up the signal, the Special Forces feline locks on, patiently focusing on the precise location of his prey without tipping it off. He keeps perfectly still until the mouse gets near, then pounces. Skilled in hand-to-hand combat, the cat stuns his prey with a blow from his forepaws. Then the soldier finishes the job with a bite to the neck. Mission accomplished. The serval takes cover to avoid bigger competitors. Being such natural-born killers, servals thrive on the savanna. Their oversized ears are only part of their special gear. They also have the longest legs of any cat relative to body size. And he knows how to deploy those big guns. His ears lead him to the underground sound of a mole rat. Although he stands only about 62 centimeters at the shoulder, his legs allow him to jump up to 2 meters high. This one didn't challenge himself today. A mole rat is an easy target. Besides special gear, servals use special tactics. Unlike most cats, they'll dig up a part of the rat's tunnel and patiently wait for the rodent to start repairs. The hunter listens patiently for the prey to reach striking distance for an easy kill. From the tips of his large ears to the ends of his long legs, the serval is geared up to be a Special Forces sniper. On the African savanna, hearing pays off to the servals. Their radar dish ears are remarkable. In water, though, large ears aren't an advantage. Survival below the surface demands other special gear. Near the coast of Australia, in the Shark Bay, lives our next member of the Special Forces, one whose entire body is a sort of radar antenna. A peaceful grazer, the dugong. These mammalian mini-submarines, also known as sea cows, are strict herbivores. At a leisurely pace of about 10 kilometers per hour, they dive to the bottom in search of seagrass. Special forces have elite tastes, and they graze only certain meadows. Some will dive as deep as 37 meters for their favorite grasses. Their hearing is not as keen as the servals, and their eyesight is far worse. But they have developed other sensory gear to perceive their surroundings. Touch. These submariners feel their surroundings. On their mouth, long, sensitive whiskers, or vibrissae, help them find food. Short hairs all over their bodies provide complex information about their surroundings. On their grazing mission, they can eat up to 40 kilograms of seagrass per day. As they feel around for their food, they get a sense of how much is available. They devour grasses, roots and all. If the grass is scarce, they'll eat algae. Their large, rounded snout ends in a muscular cleft. It hangs over the downturned mouth and helps the dugong keep contact with the sea bottom as it pulls up roots. Six types of sensory bristles cover their lips and help them locate food. As the bristles around their mouths find the sought-after grasses, their muscular snouts get busy pulling it up, leaving furrows in the sand as they graze. A dugong depends on 6 bristle fields for grazing. 2 of the bristle fields are in its lower jaw and 4 poke out of its upper jaw. But to gather intelligence about its entire surroundings, its left and right sides are each outfitted with 1,500 tactile hairs. These hairs range from 2 to 9 millimeters in length, and they transmit delicate sensory information to the brain. This tactile minefield conveys information about other animals near them, friend or foe. Including other members of their Special Forces fleet. That's essential for this little one who has to keep close to his mother for protection. It also helps him avoid obstacles and senses water currents. This tactile gear is thought to be the most developed of any mammal. This one is too young to take care of himself. So he uses his sense of touch to feel the current and stay close to his mother. These social special forces stick together, sometimes in groups of up to 200 if the seagrass is plentiful. If not, they'll migrate far in search of greener pastures, using their sensitive bristle gear to get a sense of where they are. Though they may cover a lot of ground, they move rather slowly. As the only fully marine mammal that exclusively eats plants, their metabolism is more freighter than fighter. Peaceful dugongs don't deploy their special forces into the deepest regions of the open sea. They leave that mission to some of the ocean's biggest battle-ready frigates. Far from the coast, these leviathans tend to keep fleet formations of up to 20 vessels. They are geared up to perform maneuvers in all waters except the polar seas. This pod patrols the Atlantic between Africa and South America. Sperm whales. Ten of these giants in a row would match the size of an Ohio-class submarine, and in their own way, they could be just as powerful. They are the largest toothed predators on our planet and have the largest brain of any animal, 5 times heavier than ours, and their heads are filled with other amazing gear. The sperm whale is equipped with state-of-the-art communications gear. It can produce sounds of up to 230 decibels, far louder than a jet engine. The sounds keep the pod organized and might work as a sonic weapon during hunting. They owe their formidable vocal and hearing abilities to organs filled with a mixture of liquid fats and waxes called spermaceti. The dense fluid amplifies the sounds the whales depend on for echolocation and communication. Communication starts with a series of clicks generated through special gear, a pair of phonic lips. Each whale has his own signature clicks, so that everybody in the fleet can keep track of his comrades' moves. Sound travels through a sperm whale's dense spermaceti nearly twice as fast as it does through the oil of a dolphin's skull, and almost 1,800 times faster than the speed of sound through salt water. The sperm whale's fluid-filled spermaceti organ acts like a megaphone, enhancing the power of sound waves. When the whale produces a click just below the blowhole, the sound travels to the back of the spermaceti and reverberates several times in a matter of milliseconds. The whale's sound-receiving gear starts with its lower jaw, which picks up echoes. A continuous fat-filled canal transmits those sounds to the inner ear. These special forces sperm whales might even use sound for hunting. They usually dive between 300 and 800 meters and can stay submerged for more than an hour as they search for octopus, rays, and various squids. But to catch the elusive giant squid, they might dive as deep as 2 kilometers. They lock onto their target using echolocation and might even stun it with a sonic blast, the most powerful sound in the animal kingdom. But this system has risks. The sperm whale's echolocation gear can backfire when they get near a coast. If one whale gets stranded in the shallow water, his distress calls might summon the troops, stranding his comrades as well. In some places, between 50 and 70 sperm whales have been stranded at the same time, victims of their close bonds and their sensitive gear. Which is why they have to be cautious and try to confine their incredible vocal abilities to the open seas. Pods of sperm whales use their sonic gear to troll the ocean deep. In the deep woods of the Northern Hemisphere lurk solitary special forces well equipped for their survival mission. Across the cold regions of Asia, Europe, and North America are the theaters of war for a particularly feisty breed of soldier. Wolverine. Looking like a small bear and possibly even more ferocious, these solitary mammals belong to the weasel family. Only about knee-high to a man, wolverines can take down adult deer, though mostly they fulfill their mission as scavengers, especially in winter and early spring. A wolverine's feeding mission might take her 25 kilometers in a day. She relies on special gear to find rations to fill her belly. Wolverines can smell prey 6 meters under the snow. They will excavate burrows and kill hibernating animals. Trekking through the ice and snow burns a lot of energy. This soldier's sensitive nasal gear allows her to sniff out prey as efficiently as possible without wasting a step. Whether her target is buried deep in the snow or laying far across the woods, she'll find it. That enables her to successfully complete her survival mission even when prey is scarce. A wolverine can detect smells from farther than 3 kilometers away, thanks to the honeycomb-shaped structure in its nasal cavity. The organ picks up scent molecules in the air, and its shape maximizes its surface area. Unraveled, it would be almost the size of a dinner plate. This tracker has found a deer carcass. She'll gorge herself now, and then apply her Special Forces survival training tactics, which rely on her keen sense of smell. She'll bury the remains of the carcass for later, using the snow and ice as a natural refrigerator. Wolverines stash food this way throughout their territory so they can sniff it out when times get tough. Storage on ice reduces the chances of other animals finding their cache. Their strong jaws and teeth have no trouble gnawing through frozen flesh and bone. The wolverine's specialized nasal gear has 30 times the surface area of a human's. That's something like the difference between a postage stamp and a large postcard. Their sensitive olfactory gear enables these special forces to harness nature's destructive power to their advantage. For these soldiers of misfortune, even an avalanche provides an opportunity as it buries everything in its path. Afterward, this Wolverine is one of the first responders, hungrily sniffing out and digging up a reindeer carcass before anyone else gets it. With her belly full and her treasure reburied for later, she returns to headquarters in her den. The Wolverine's special gear makes her the master of her frozen world. But on the other side of the planet, the rules of engagement are entirely different, and so is the gear. Instead of a desolate, snowy landscape, we have a warm, tropical sea brimming with life and battles for survival. Australia's Great Barrier Reef is home to over 300 species of mollusks, and one group stands out for its unique anatomy and enhanced sensory gear. The octopus. These universal soldiers are fully equipped for any situation, from hunting to hiding. These shape-shifting special forces wage guerrilla warfare on shrimp, crabs, and even lobsters. Equipped with 8 arms, 3 hearts, and not a bone in its body, he's arguably one of the planet's most unusual-looking warriors. But his strategy depends on seeing while not being seen. An octopus sees in 360 degrees, giving them a perfect overview of their surroundings. What they cannot see, they can sense by touch and even taste through the entire surface of their bodies. Despite their military-grade camouflage skills, most octopus are colorblind. Their optical gear is calibrated to read polarized light, which helps them hunt shimmering fish. The anatomy of octopus eyes is very similar to human eyes, as opposed to eyes of fish. But unlike ours, the eye of an octopus has no blind spot. This gives the octopus enough time to avoid danger, waiting in his bunker until the enemy leaves the battlefield. This shark has no luck today. His mission's been foiled by the sensitive early detection system of the octopus. Good vision is only part of the special gear for the octopus. He's the original armed forces. Those 8 flexible arms are outfitted with hundreds of suckers that help him move and grab things. More than suction cups, the discs can even cling tightly to rough surfaces. The octopus senses his environment with his entire body. The 8 arms carry an estimated 240 million receptors, which gather tactile and chemical information. Each 3-millimeter sucker is lined with tens of thousands of mechanical and chemical receptors in a single layer of cells. They can even taste things with their suckers. Being fully armed with sensory cells means that the octopus doesn't even have to see its prey. This red octopus simply reaches into a crevice in search of an easy meal. The Special Forces chemoreceptor gear helps the octopus navigate through her environment. She can detect slight changes in the water to find her bearings and detect prey. For simpler tastes like sweet, salty, and bitter, the receptors on octopus suckers might be 100 times more sensitive than our own taste buds. This blue-ringed octopus locked onto her target. Guided by chemoreceptors, she has the enemy within striking range. In true assassin fashion, the octopus snatches her meal, a perfect catch made by a perfectly geared marine predator. The specialized gear of the octopus makes her a strange and powerful force in her exotic world. An ocean away, a more recognizable troop of special forces practices maneuvers. In Africa, groups of amazing primates live and hunt and prosper thanks to a truly gripping piece of gear. Meet the Savannah's Special Forces, baboons. These tight-knit troops of up to 120 members keep in touch on many fronts. Even the youngest recruits instinctively master the special gear that sets primates apart, hands that grip. Not only do baboons have agile fingers, but also a fine sense of touch. They can perform delicate field operations almost as well as we can. Thanks to an intricate distribution of nerves and an important anatomical feature, the baboon's signature maneuver is what's called a precision grip. They engage the precision grip by pressing the thumb against the other fingers. Whenever you pick up a pen or catch a ball, you're using a precision grip. Baboon troops in the field rely on their precision grip for other duties. Baboons operate in a potential battlefield. Most of their neighbors are armed with sharp claws, so these little ones, the smallest of the baboon special forces, stay under their mother's guard. Their grip enables their mother to become a troop transport. The young ones just have to hang on tight to stay safe. A precision grip is also essential for creating camaraderie among the troops. In the form of social grooming, by carefully removing ticks and other parasites from each other, the baboons increase social bonds and reduce stress. Removing a tick only a few milliliters across demands more than just a good grip. It also requires a refined sense of touch. Besides their opposable thumbs, baboons have 4 main nerve groups in different layers of skin. Pacinian corpuscles respond to pressure and vibrations. Meissner's corpuscles detect low-frequency vibrations. Ruffini's endings are sensitive to stretch, and Merkel's discs respond to gentle touch and perceived shapes. Through this special gear, baboons can better experience and manipulate their world. But picking parasites is one thing. Grabbing a bite to eat is another. Time to infiltrate a fleet of flamingos. The trick is to move slowly and not arouse suspicion while behind enemy lines. When he finds a target in range, he strikes. With his strong grip, he grabs the flamingo, holding it so it can't fly away. A bite to the neck finishes the job. The baboon takes his trophy of war up to the riverbank. Only baboons and other higher primate special forces have the manual gear to take down prey with their bare hands, and that includes humans. This baboon's tactile skills have earned him a good dinner. He might not be able to use a knife and fork, but his dexterity allows him to pull off the best pieces of flamingo meat. A baboon's sense of touch is essential gear, but primates aren't the only special forces that depend on touch. We head now to Australia, where jungle warfare plays out every day. The forests of Queensland hide countless quiet battlefields, many of them lined with silk. These are the theaters of war for thousands of species of spiders. Spider silk might be the most specialized special gear in the animal world. 8 different kinds, depending on the spider, woven on demand for a variety of purposes. It's a home-building material. A line for rappelling to safety. A telegraph for communicating with a mate. A cocoon for raising offspring. All spiders spin silk, but not all build webs. Web-dwelling spiders don't see well. These special forces gather intel by reading the vibrations on their webs. Different frequencies distinguish between friend and food. This female St. Andrew's Cross web spider precisely engineers her snare. She employs a strategy that has served her kind well for millions of years. Once she finishes her trap, all she must do is wait. Staying perfectly still, she reads the slight vibrations like a secret code from every corner of her web. Her special gear is on her feet, structures that are specially attuned to decrypt various kinds of vibrations. There it is. The web transmits a signal. A smaller spider has wandered into her trap. He's unaware that he's tripped a landmine. A spider's feet are special gear. They never get stuck on their own web. She can move swiftly across the sticky strands and attack in a split second. After the cross spider immobilizes her prey with a bite, she wraps it with another type of silk to hold him until it's time to eat. As a spider plucks the web, it sends out ripples in every direction. 3 different kinds of sensors on its legs read the vibrations, so the spider can check the web's integrity. She can tell if the web is damaged or if she might have a visitor. If it's a visitor, she can tell if it's potential prey or a potential suitor. This funnel web spider doesn't build a web like the cross spider. He lines his den with individual strands that alert him to intruders at the entrance of his den. He's picked up the vibration of prey. A cricket. This Special Forces spider is among the most venomous in the world, even to humans. Among his special gear, a pincher that can supposedly pierce a person's toenail. That was a fine catch. Now, this male spider is on a different mission. Infiltrating a female's web, looking to mate. Approaching carefully, he does not want to endanger the treaty. By the nature of the vibrations, the female knows that he's not an enemy or prey. But apparently, she's not in the mood. Despite all the sensory advantages, the male is forced to retreat. Sometimes it takes more than special gear to fulfill a diplomatic mission. In this world, the competition never quits. Having the right gear provides more than a fighting chance for success. For optical gear, the chameleon is the champ. With his super keen vision and independently moving eyes, nothing gets past him. As long as he's patient, his battle plan can't fail. The serval isn't much different. Instead of gun turret eyes, she relies on her rotating radar dish ears, picking up sounds that others might miss. And she also gets rewarded for her patience. While the chameleon and serval tune their gear to distant signals, the dugong gathers intelligence from close proximity. The whiskers on its face and body work like thousands of tiny antennae to find food and fellow submariners in the rippling water. The water also carries a secret code for the sperm whale, who uses clicks and sonar to rally the troops and find food. His head is like an enormous sonic transmitter receiver. The sperm whale relies on sound, while the wolverine depends on smell. Her nasal gear picks up odor molecules even several meters under the snow, thanks to her specialized navel cavity, which maximizes surface area. The octopus may carry the most sophisticated gear of all. Besides its polarized vision, its whole body is an array of sensors for taste and touch. It's like an 8-armed chemistry field lab. Baboons don't need 8 arms when 2 opposable thumbs will do. The baboon's precision grip is both a tool and a weapon. And this gear is enhanced by sensitive nerves for ultimate control. Spiders are ultra-sensitive too, but their gear is in their legs. In their silken webs, they're attuned to the slightest vibration of friends and foes. These soldiers are on the front lines of the battle for survival, special forces with special gear and prepared to win.